Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, I have text 7. Yeah. Okay. On the 6th day of January, 2025 in San Diego, reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 17, the Divisions of Faith, text 7, on page 645. Aharas tu api sarvasya trividho bhavati priyaha yagyas tapas tatha danam tesham bedam imam shunu aharastvapi sarvasya trividho bhavati priyaha yagyas tapas tatha danam tesham bedam imam shunu aharastvapi sarvasya trividho bhavati priyaha yagyas tapas tatha danam tesham bedam imam shunu aharastvapi sarvasya trividho bhavati priyaha yagyas tapas tatha danam tesham bedam imam shunu aharastvapi sarvasya trividho bhavati priyaha yagyas tapas tatha danam tesham bedam imam shunu aharastvapi sarvasya trividho bhavati priyaha yagyas tapas tatha danam tesham bedam imam shunu aharastvapi sarvasya trividho bhavati priyaha yagyas tapas tatha danam tesham bedam imam shunu aharastvapi sarvasya trividho bhavati priyaha yagyas tapas tatha danam tesham bedam imam shunu. Anyone online? Guess not. Ahara, eating. 2, certainly. Api, also. Sarvasya, of everyone. Trividaha, of 3 kinds. Bhavati, there is. Priyaha, dear. Yagyaha, sacrifice. Tapaha, austerity. Tatha, also danam, charity. Tesham, of them. Bedam, the differences. Imam, this. Shrinu, here. Translation. Krishna says to Arjuna, even the food each person prefers is of 3 kinds, according to the 3 modes of material nature. The same is true of sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now hear of the distinctions between them. Purport. In terms of different situations in the modes of material nature, there are differences in the manner of eating and performing sacrifices, austerities, and charities. They are not at all conducted on the same level. Those who can understand analytically what kind of performances are in what modes of material nature are actually wise. Those who consider all kinds of sacrifice or food or charity to be the same cannot discriminate, and they are foolish. There are missionary workers who advocate that one can do whatever he likes and attain perfection. But these foolish guides are not acting according to the direction of the scripture. They are manufacturing ways and misleading the people in general. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer humble obeisances unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So this chapter is entitled The Divisions of Faith. And we heard something about that already, but there's actually divisions of everything. And Krishna is giving some examples of food and sacrifice, austerity, and charity, which we'll learn in the next chapter. One should never give up austerity, right? Penances and charity. But it matters what mode we're in, what mode we are attracted to. We're going to first hear about food, and then the other three. And you'll see that people of different characters, of different modes, they are performing these sacrifices in these different things, eating, and all of it impinges on our consciousness. If you eat food in the mode of ignorance, meat and alcohol and all these different things, then that's going to affect your consciousness, what you're attracted to. There's that famous verse, I think I referred to it last time, at the very beginning of the 10th canto, where Purāṇas Maharaj is finally very excited. He's going to hear about Krishna's Leela after 9 cantos. And so he's very eagerly asking Shukadev to proceed with this narration, which he does. But before that, he chants this verse, which is practically the only verse that's actually quoted in the whole Krishna book, right at the beginning of the preface. Nivrittatar shayad upagiyamanad bhavausadat shrota manobiramat ka uttama shloka gunanuvarat puman virajeta vina pashugnat. So nivrittatar shayad, I explained this before, means free of desires. In other words, pure devotees. What are they doing? Upagiyamanad. They are singing, chanting Krishna's activities, qualities, pastimes, name. Bhavausadat, which serves as a medicine to cure the disease of birth and death. And what is it? Shrota mano biramat. And these accounts of Krishna, they're nectar for the ears and for the mind. Shrota mano abhiramat. So he says, Kauttama shloka guna anuvarat, describing the qualities, etc., of Krishna, of Uttama shloka. Very nice name. It means he was described by the best verses. So who would give it up? Vina Kauttama shloka guna puman virajeta. Where is that human being who would neglect to hear this nectar flow, except one who is a pashugnat. Pashugnat means an animal killer, animal eater. Or it can mean one who is killing the soul. You can't really kill the soul, but you're obviating any possibility of self-realization. Performing activity that you'll get degraded birth and things like that. So it's very telling. Prabhupada describes the significance of that verse. And so what modes we cultivate in our ordinary activities, how we eat and what music we listen to and all kinds of things, everything will further one or the other different modes. And so in Krishna consciousness, we try to do things in the mode of goodness, aiming for the mode of pure goodness, in which Krishna appears. That's why it's called, what is it? Vasudev state. The Vasudev state is another word for the mode of pure goodness, because from Vasudev came Vasudev. Krishna was born from Vasudev. So anyway, this is one of the chapters that deals a lot with the modes of nature. We know chapter 14 and that, and we've heard of it from the beginning. What's that famous verse? Daiviyesha gunamayi mama maya doratyaya mameviye papadyante mayame tangtarantide. This is the 7th chapter, text 14. Very important verse. This divine energy of mine, why is it divine? Everything is divine ultimately because it's coming from me. Daiviyesha gunamahi. It's composed of the modes of nature, you see. Daiviyesha gunamahi. Mama maya duratyaya. Now I'm trying to do a little revision on the present translation, which Prabhupada said, in the translation, is difficult to overcome. All right, it's certainly duratyaya means difficult. But in the synonyms and in the purport and in the translation, in the translation it's difficult to overcome, but in the purport and the
word by words, he says it's very difficult. It's, and then it's impossible to overcome on your own without any help from Krishna. Because something that's difficult, you use that terminology when it's difficult, but you can do it if you try. It's difficult to get into Harvard, but if you really work hard and you get good grades, you can do it, right? And so if you just say it's difficult to overcome material energy, but if you try hard, you can do it. No, you have to surrender to Krishna. And that's what the verse says. Those who surrender unto me can cross beyond it. So these modes of nature have been spoken about throughout. I think in the second chapter, Trigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistrigunya Bhavarjana. Does that name ring a bell? That the modes, that the three, the Vedas, they're called three Vedas, means that part of the Vedas that doesn't deal just with transcendence. It's karma kanda, So it deals mostly with the modes of nature. If you're in the, of enjoying, of passion, oh yeah, you can go to heaven. You get all those, that's part of the Vedas. So Trigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistrigunya Bhavarjana, but you be transcendental to the modes, Arjuna. Because Arjuna was kind of in the modes, right? He was thinking in terms of bodily relationships in the body. That's the problem. So anyway, now we're going to hear the different kinds of foods that are in different modes and further, and these other things also. All right, so let's proceed. Text 8. Yes. Ayu sattva balarogya sukha priti vivardhanaha rasya snigna stira hridya ahara satvika priyaha. Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. Just think of a right, nicely prepared Sunday feast. Then, mode of passion. Katvam la lavanatyushna tikshna ruksha vivadina. I'm sorry. Let's try that line again. Tikshna ruksha vidahina ahara rajasasyeshta dukkha kamaya pradaha. Foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease. Well, if that happened for the mode of passion, let's see what happens with the mode of ignorance. Yatayamangatarasam putipar yushitam chayat uttishtam apichamedhyam bhojanam tamasa priyam. Food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. Okay, let's read the purport. Purport. The purpose of food is to increase the duration of life, purify the mind, and aid bodily strength. This is its only purpose. In the past, great authorities selected those foods that best aid health and increase life's duration, such as milk products, sugar, rice, wheat, fruits, and vegetables. These foods are very dear to those in the mode of goodness. Some other foods, such as baked corn and molasses, while not very palatable in themselves, can be made pleasant when mixed with milk or other foods. They are then in the mode of goodness. All these foods are pure by nature. They are quite distinct from untouchable things like meat and liquor. Fatty foods, as mentioned in the 8th verse, have no connection with animal fat obtained by slaughter. Animal fat is available in the form of milk, which is the most wonderful of all foods. Milk, butter, cheese, and similar products give animal fat in a form which rules out any need for the killing of innocent creatures. It is only through brute mentality that this killing goes on. The civilized method of obtaining needed fat is by milk. Slaughter is the way of subhumans. Protein is amply available through split peas, dal, whole wheat, etc. Foods in the mode of passion, which are bitter, too salty, or too hot, or overly mixed with red pepper, cause misery by reducing the mucus in the stomach, leading to disease. Foods in the mode of ignorance or darkness are essentially those that are not fresh. Any food cooked more than 3 hours before it is eaten, except prasadam, food offered to the Lord, is considered to be in the mode of darkness. Because they are decomposing, such foods give a bad odor, which often attracts people in this mode, but repulses those in the mode of goodness. Remnants of food may be eaten only when they are part of a meal that was first offered to the Supreme Lord, or first eaten by saintly persons, especially the spiritual master. Otherwise, the remnants of food are considered to be in the mode of darkness, and they increase infection or disease. Such foodstuffs, although very palatable to persons in the mode of darkness, are neither liked nor even touched by those in the mode of goodness. The best food is the remnants of what is offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord says that He accepts preparations of vegetables, flour, and milk when offered with devotion. Patram pushpam palam toyam. Of course, devotion and love are the chief things which the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts. But it is also mentioned that the prasadam should be prepared in a particular way. Any food prepared by the injunctions of the scripture and offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be taken even if prepared long, long ago, because such food is transcendental. Therefore, to make food antiseptic, eatable, and palatable for all persons, one should offer food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oh my God! Oh, I did that already. Sorry. So there's a lot here about food, and this idea that it shouldn't be prepared for more than 3 hours before eaten. How about 3 years? I mean, this super, what do they call it? Super processed food, and canned food, yeah. And the snack aisle down at Ralph's, I sometimes tell them, I go in the back, I basically buy I used to buy kale there, but now I have this kale powder that's more economical. But I always buy these blueberries, frozen blueberries, organic blueberries, which I mix into the smoothie. Yeah. They say that by that particular berry, when you freeze it, the nutrition level actually goes up. Anyway, it's very good for you. And but that's way in the back. So I have to walk either in the snack aisle or in the liquor aisle. I have a whole aisle at both sides, beers and liquor and everything. This is what. Now I'm not tempted to buy any of it, obviously, but I mean it's well known, and I read articles about it. How all of this ultra processed food, what is that stuff? Highly processed corn, not corn oil, but. Yes. What is it? High fructose corn syrup. They've traced. So much disease comes from that. These kids eat those. So it's all of that is in the mode of ignorance. It's in the mode of ignorance. So freshly prepared prasadam, with balanced food and nice vegetables and milk products and so forth. Is very conducive to maintaining your health. And, there's also the Mediterranean diet, which I try to follow in my old age, fresh vegetables and, broccoli every day, steamed broccoli. And I've got my little invented salad dressing with spirulina and chlorella, and what else? I've got some olive oil, of course, is in there. Anyway, it's so far so good. I just turned 77. You see, I was jumping up and down the other day. Of course, that usually hurt my ankle the next day. But yeah, the Krishna. But I mean, what when you look at Lord Chaitanya's movement, Prabhupada started it, and that's really the essence: chanting and dancing, and when you get tired, to take prasadam. I remember in the old days when I joined, I was very fortunate to join when there was still a lot of Harinam going on every day, 3 hours a day. And I may have told this story before, but I was reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the only part that had been published so far was the Adi Lila. But there's some wonderful accounts of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement and his associates there in Navadvip, in Mayapur. So one of the associates was Vakreshwar Pandit, And if you read the book, you'll see that he had this, his special power was he could dance constantly for 3 days without stopping. That's empowerment, So I said, maybe I can try to get that. You do that, because I was pretty athletic, So there's no way to go out with flip-flops, you need to have the right shoes, So in those days, it was 73, but still, there was still a lot of hippies around, people who would, walk barefoot. So we had a shoe room. We had so many guests on Sunday. We had a shoe room where people would leave their shoes and get a number, and then we'd have them all stacked up. But somehow there was shoes collecting in there. People would come in shoes and leave barefoot, So I knew about that. So I went down to the shoe room and looked, and there were these sneakers, we used to call them, that just fit perfectly for me. So, oh, Krishna wants me to try to do this, So I would go out and I would try to dance for the whole time, 3 hours. It was a little hard. But whenever there was a kirtan in the temple, I would always be the first one to jump up and down, so they heard the mridanga. And it was a battle between the prasadam, because I was 25 and I had a really good appetite, and the halva was fabulous, So I'd eat all this halva, But then I would go out and jump up and down, so I would gain a little bit of weight. I had my face, but now I'm down to my fighting weight. But yeah, prasadam, dancing, chanting, and taking prasadam. That was Lord Chaitanya's program for the masses. He wouldn't do much preaching out there, like we do with classes, but he would lead massive kirtans. I'm thinking like of his South Indian tour, when he went out. And people, it's described there, I think, chapter 9, I think, of his South Indian tour of the Madhya Lila. And, just from seeing him and hearing him, people who were, in the mode of goodness, they were already devotees, they would get prema from that. Then they would go back to their villages, and then people would see them and they would get prema. It was almost like a pandemic, a good pandemic, catching. So that's what he was preaching. And that's still the essence of the movement, is the chanting and dancing, and then feasting, and then, of course, the lecture. I mean, Prabhupada would chant for a long time, then he would give the talk, then it would be another chanting session for a short time, then it would be the feast. This is what he would do, and so they're getting the kirtan, they're getting philosophy, and and it was basically his cooking at the beginning, you can imagine, So prasadam is essential, but you can see eating is so key. I've noted this. I mean, I myself, I was absolutely uninterested in spiritual life as long as I was eating meat, But when I had the good fortune of having a health crisis, I won't get into the whole thing with hepatitis, I was in the hospital. And then I said, I really have to look into how I can have the best diet for regaining my health and, like that. And I started doing yoga. So I got this book about raw food, how wonderful a raw food diet is. Of course, it was all vegetables. And it was a lot of juice, carrot, celery, and parsley juice. I mean, it was like there was a whole thing I would do with that. And it worked. It worked. And then I met Amala Bhakta. He was known as Shiva Prem Swami at that time. And that's where I started doing yoga. But yeah, all of this, the food is so important for health, and the prasadam. The consciousness of the cooks is so important, and that they're good cooks. All right, let's go on. Text 11. Apalakankshibir yagyo viridishto yaijyate yastavhyame veti mana samadaya sasatvikaha. Of sacrifices, the sacrifice performed according to the directions of Scripture as a matter of duty by those who desire no reward is of the nature of goodness. Purport. The general tendency is to offer sacrifice with some purpose in mind. But here it is stated that sacrifice should be performed without any such desire. It should be done as a matter of duty. Take, for example, the performance of rituals in temples or in churches. Generally, they are performed with the purpose of material benefit. But that is not in the mode of goodness. One should go to a temple or church as a matter of duty, offer respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and offer flowers and eatables without any purpose of obtaining material benefit. Everyone thinks that there is no use in going to the temple just to worship God. But worship for economic benefit is not recommended in the scriptural injunctions. One should go simply to offer respect to the deity. That will place one in the mode of goodness. It is the duty of every civilized man to obey the injunctions of the scriptures and offer respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. Did you want to see the deity? 8:15 is our next darshan. Okay? Do you want to come back? Oh, you're welcome to stay. Yeah. So this is now, he's talking about yajna. Remember that was yajna, tapas, and dana. Each one gets a verse here, I think. So the whole point in Krishna consciousness is not to be this famous word Prabhupada introduced to us, fruitive. Oh, just see. I'm going to save the battery, I'm going to turn it off. I hope that's not too fruitive. I use it for Krishna service. So he's talking here about apalakankshi, without desire for the fruit, the sacrifice. So what's the desire? Then we perform the sacrifice. Prabhupada didn't mention here, but whenever you see the word sacrifice, he usually mentions Sankirtan Yajna, So the whole idea is we're not dancing and chanting, before the Lord and chanting Hare Krishna. Oh, may I become very wealthy. May I become very powerful and beautiful so I can attract him. No, it's not like that. Right? It's just for the sheer joy of glorifying the Lord, isn't it? It's its own reward. It's its own reward. I don't know about you, but I'm not even thinking of liberation. I'm thinking of liberation. It's just the joy of chanting. And the whole idea in bhakti in general, as I mentioned this morning, I think it was, and I've been mentioned, is to realize that our goal is to love Krishna and to enjoy by giving him enjoyment. That's the whole idea. Is that and if you practice a little bhakti, even just chanting the glories of the Lord before the deity, what did you get? There's nothing tangible there by doing that, but there's a certain happiness that comes from doing that. The name itself is Krishna, and Krishna is the source of all bliss, right? We know that. So it's in the Vedanta Sutra, Anandamaya Abhyasat. Anandamaya means basically made of bliss, full of bliss. And what does the Abhyasat means? From his activities we can tell. If he's killing some demon or he's dancing with the gopis, he's blissful. He may seem angry, but he's just enjoying being angry. No one wants to fight with him in Vaikuntha. So he arranges for Jaya and Vijay to get cursed so he can fight with the Ranyaksha and Mahikashipu, right? And at the same time give blessings to Prahlad and So the whole thing is it's a 180-degree turn in your ordinary way of being a conditioned soul. The conditioned soul means that you're bound by the false ego, which is characterized by aham mameti. Who can tell me what that means? This is a very important phrase. Aham mama iti. Aham means I. Mama means my. Aham mameti. This is the false ego. I am this body, and things in relation to the body or mind. You remember Krishna was imitating the demon last. The mantra of the demon. Ishvaroham aham bhogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. Can you see Hiranyakashipu chanting that? I am the man. Ishvaroham. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. Yeah, and then you're getting cut down by Krishna. So, but Krishna really is the ultimate enjoyer, And when we take part in his enjoyment, we become joyful. The spirit internally, and that's real happiness. That's not subject to being destroyed by time. Even when the body finally falls, if you're fixed in Krishna consciousness, you're still in bliss. I mean, I'd like to refer to this because this is our own people, especially Rajendranandana Prabhu and Shamali, Yamunapati's daughter and Parashakti's daughter. She was very popular here. She grew up here as a little child, Gauri. Gora. And but eventually she went to school in the UK, and from there she went on the Polish tour with Indradyumna Maharaj. You may have known that, he goes on the shore of Poland for years now, many years. And she became enlivened in her original Krishna consciousness from that and took initiation. And then she married Bhishma Dev, who was an alumnus here. He was the president at one point in the early aughts, I think. And then they lived in Alachua for years. And I would go there, I would go twice a year, and then we had lunch with them and everything like that, So then, tragically, she came down with cancer. And so, Yamuna went there, Parashakti went there to visit her, Yamuna stayed with her. And even I was calling and sharing some of my poems, at one point, But she had Indradyumna Maharaj calling her every day from India, from Vrindavan, and encouraging her, and she had friends all over the world, And Yamuna described it. This always sticks in my mind. It was a wonderful memorial when she passed, and he recounted that he was with her when she passed, and she was very, very peaceful, and he just visualized like the Vaikuntha airplane came down and picked her up. She went, and I know from working in a hospital for a whole year. As an inhalation therapist, how traumatic it is, these people passing. And most of the time they're completely sedated, they're not even conscious. But it's just the most frightening experience. Everything that they know it's like a big abyss opening up for them, and it's horrible. So that's the final exam. And if you're fully Krishna conscious, then it's almost like you're being embraced by Krishna, and taken back to the spiritual world. Eternally. That's what we want. So all of this counts. What you eat, how you eat, what your consciousness is, what your consciousness is when you cook. That's very important. That's a very part of it. So Krishna is giving us the proper sacrifices to perform, the mentality to do it. And if you're in the modes of nature, then you're going to get a contrary result. All right. Now, the mode of passion. Abhisandhaya tupalam dambhartam apichayavayat ijjate bhatata shrestha tam yagyam vidirajasam. But the sacrifice performed for some material benefit or for the sake of pride, O chief of the Bharatas, you should know to be in the mode of passion. Purport. Sometimes sacrifices and rituals are performed for elevation to the heavenly kingdom or for some material benefits in this world. Such sacrifices or ritualistic performances are considered to be in the mode of passion. Now notice this word damba. Remember that we encountered this before. This is the first quality of the demons spoken of in the 16th chapter. And it comes up again and again. So damba, Prabhupada always translates as pride. And it's really this false pride. There's an element of hypocrisy in there. And just for show, you can imagine performing a sacrifice just so that you'll be seen as someone who performs sacrifices. I'm a very pious person, like that. It's totally self-centered. And that's artam, dhammartam, out of pride or out of false pride or desiring to appear as if you're Brahminical or whatever, what I mean? It's all a farce. So that enters in this mode of passion, to be seen as pious. Now, mode of ignorance. Vidihinam asrishtanam mantrahinam adakshinam shraddha virahitam yagyam tamasam parichakshate. Any sacrifice performed without regard for the directions of Scripture, without distribution of prasadam, spiritual food, without chanting of Vedic hymns and remunerations to the priests, and without faith is considered to be in a mode of ignorance. Purport. Faith in the mode of darkness or ignorance is actually faithlessness. Sometimes people worship some demigod just to make money and then spend the money for recreation, ignoring the scriptural injunctions. Such ceremonial shows of religiosity are not accepted as genuine. They are all in the mode of darkness. They produce a demonic mentality and do not benefit human society. So this is sacrifices, and also we'll see austerities in the mode of ignorance. This whole aspect of Vedic culture, which includes Tantra, performing some sacrifice in order to get power to kill an enemy, that's a real thing. And that's definitely in the mode of darkness. I think that'll be mentioned in the next section on the tapasya, austerities. Okay, let's see. Yeah, tapa. Deva dvija guru pragya pujanam shauchamarjavam brahmacharya mahimsacha sharirang tapa uchyate. Austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmins, the spiritual master, the superiors like the father and mother, in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and nonviolence. Purport. The Supreme Godhead here explains the different kinds of austerity and penance. First, he explains the austerities and penances practiced by the body. One should offer or learn to offer respect to God or to demigods, the perfect qualified Brahmins and the spiritual master, and superiors like father, mother, or any person who is conversant with Vedic knowledge. These should be given proper respect. One should practice cleansing oneself externally and internally, and he should learn to become simple in behavior. He should not do anything which is not sanctioned by the scriptural injunctions. He should not indulge in sex outside of married life, for sex is sanctioned in the scripture only in marriage, not otherwise. This is called celibacy. There are penances and austerities. These are the penances and austerities as far as the body is concerned. Now, one note here, he's changed the format. He's describing threefold penances or austerities in the mode of goodness. This verse 15 and 16 are all austerities in the mode of goodness, as will be explained in text 17. So the first one is the austerities of the body, worshiping the Lord, the Brahman, spiritual master, and so forth. Just like this bowing down that we do. That's a bodily austerity in the mode of goodness. And just to note, since I mentioned that, this word namaha, there's a book called Krishna Leela Stava, written by Sanatana Goswami. It's a summary of Krishna's Vrindavan Leela, and he weaves into it obeisances. He'll be telling a summary of the pastime, and then he'll offer obeisances like that. So, Gopi Purāṇa translated the book, and at the beginning he has a little, maybe it's in the preface, where he describes the inner meaning of different levels of offering obeisances, just like this dandavats. That's the ultimate obeisances, And 8 parts of the body are touching the ground, like that. So that word nama is just what it sounds like. It means not mine. When you offer your obeisances to the deities, like when we greet the deities, this body is not mine, my Lord. It is your servant. You offer obeisance to the spiritual master. Please use this body as you want, or like that, And the subtle body as well. So that's the real meaning of it, and it's an austerity, but it's austerity in the mode of goodness, and it's austerity of the body, this offering obeisances. Then there's, the obeisances. I always give the example of going on. Did anyone ever ride Indian Airlines? You probably rode Indian Airlines sometime? Never time? No, yeah, I'm saying the Indian Airlines, when you get on there, it's namaste, right? Namaste. But that's not really, it's like hello, right? There's not much to it. So that's kind of low grade. It's nice, but it's not really, you're not getting that much spiritual credit for it. But if you're, I got into trouble once for inventing a song. It wasn't that whole song, it was just a line of a song. Namaste Shri Radhe, Namaste Shri Shyam. Have you ever heard that? It's part of it, kirtan, right? Guru Maharaj chastised, what are you doing, making up kirtans? I didn't make up a kirtan. That was a line I used after a series of verses by Rupa Goswami, where that was the refrain line. He's describing, this is Bhagavad Gita, he's describing, Krishna is speaking to his friend, I forget which friend, as he walks in to Vrindavan. And he has, there's 2 verses. One is, Kvachim bringi gitam katadanela bhangi shishirata. Kvachim balil asyun katadamallamalli padimala. Kvachandara-shali katakapalapari risabaro vishikanam vrindam pramadahiti vrindavanamidam namaste Shri Radhe, namaste Shri Sham. You can see how it fits in, right? I have a recording I can give you. So, Vyasaki, the famous, Kirtaniya, I don't know if you've ever heard his kirtans, he's all over the internet. He picked up that line and he would integrate it into Hare Krishna Kirtan, and Hare Krishna, and Namaste Shri, and everyone would answer Namaste Shri Radhe. So Guru Maharaj heard that that was coming from my recording. So what are you doing? Prabhupada didn't want us to make up things. I didn't do it. It was just picked up. But the purpose is that actually namaste, to Radha, in namaste to Shri Sham. We do it all the time, Anyway, neither here nor there. Okay, so we can read the austerities of the voice. One is the body, the voice, and then the mind. Anudvega kadam vakyam satyam priyahitang chayat svadhyaya vyasanang chaiva Vanmayang tapa uchite. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. Purport. One should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students, but such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students if he will agitate their minds. This is penance as far as talking is concerned. Now, Prabhupada would use the word penance as a synonym for austerities. Besides that, one should not talk nonsense. The process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures. One should at once quote from scriptural authority to back up what he is saying. At the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. By such discussions, one may derive the highest benefit and elevate human society. There is a limitless stock of Vedic literature, and one should study this. This is called penance of speech. Now, this pleasurable to the ear. Now, this is one of the things that the Bhagavatam is famous for. In other words, it's not only essential instruction and illumination of Krishna's pastimes, essential knowledge that we need, but the verses are beautifully composed. And right at the beginning of Bhagavatam, you get this idea. In the third verse, the first verse is, these first two verses are very weighty. The first verse, you get the whole subject, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's all about his Janman Jasyaton Bayad. Second verse is about the book. Dharma Projatakaitavo. It's all about Atra. Gopi Purāṇas, he points out in his lecture on this that the word Atra here in this book appears 3 times in the verse. And who's eligible to hear? Nirmatsamanam sadham vejam. It's understood by those who are free of envy. All of cheating religion is kicked out. It's spoken by Vedavyasa in his maturity. Just by hearing attentively, really attentively, the Bhagavatam, the Lord is manifest in the heart. And what's the need for any other scripture? This is all in the second verse. And one who hears carefully will have the Lord manifest in his heart. All right, pretty heavy stuff. It's said that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave a lecture on its first verse for like several months. You can imagine, Now the third verse gives you the nectar. This is a Nigamakalpatadogalitam palam Shukamakaramita dravasammitam Tabata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Mohadaho Rasika Bhuvipavukaha. You see? Now that's pleasing to the ear, It's so what does it say? Nigamakalpatadogalitam palam. So all of the Vedas, Nigama, or the whole Vedic literatures, they're like a desire tree. If you want to learn about medicine, that's cool, come on, Ayurveda. You want to learn how to fight? Dhanurveda. You want to learn how to tell the future? We got Jyotish, right? There's everything there. Yeah. So, but if you want to go back to Godhead, here's the Bhagavatam. So this is the ripened fruit of all this tree, desire tree, you see. And Prabhupada says immortally, he says there, in the word by words, semi-soft and easily swallowable, this Bhagavatam. So it's like a drink, because it says, Pibata, drink it. So it's the ripened fruit of the tree of the Vedic literature. Galitam palam, Shukamakad, it's been touched by the lips of Shuka, and it's a double meaning, like a parrot makes a fruit sweeter by pecking it, apparently. Amrita dravasamyutam, and then that dravasamya means semi-soft and easily swallowable. So he said, okay, now, wise souls, pibat the Bhagavatam, drink it. Yeah, it's like a mango so ripe that you have to drink it. But the Bhagavatam rasamale, drink this rasa, this juice, which will give you rasa, double meaning. Alayam. Now this word alayam is layam, because I couldn't figure out alayam. Rasamale means the abode of rasa, right? No. Drink the rasa up to the point of laya, of liberation, and beyond. You see? Alayam. Muhoraho, again and again, every morning, at least. Muhoraho, rasika, or rasikas, those who like to drink the rasa, the nectar. Rasika bhuvi bhavaka, who are the most auspicious people on the earth, So that third verse is what I call a nectar verse. And it gives you a taste of what the Bhagavatam contains. You get to the 10th canto and the prayers of the gopis, and it's all this exquisite poetry, expressing the highest limits of bhakti. So you only find that in the Bhagavatam, you see. So that's what it means here. Karam vakyam, satyam, what is it? Truthful, pleasing, beneficial, not agitating to others. This is all in the mode of goodness. And finally, we should do this last verse on the austerities of the mind. Manak prasara saumyatvam maunam atma vanigraha bhava sangshuddhirityetat tapomana samuchyate. And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. Purport. To make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. It should be so trained that it can be always thinking of doing good for others. The best training for the mind is gravity in thought. One should not deviate from Krishna consciousness and must always avoid sense gratification. To purify one's nature is to become Krishna conscious. Satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from the thoughts of sense enjoyment. The more we think of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. In the present age, we unnecessarily engage the mind in so many different ways for sense gratification, and so there is no possibility of the mind's becoming satisfied. The best course is to divert the mind to the Vedic literature, which is full of satisfying stories, as in the Purāṇas and the Mahābhārata. One can take advantage of this knowledge and thus become purified. The mind should be devoid of duplicity, and one should think of the welfare of all. Silence means that one is always thinking of self-realization. The person in Krishna consciousness observes perfect silence in this sense. Control of the mind means detaching the mind from sense enjoyment. One should be straightforward in his dealings and thereby purify his existence. All these qualities together constitute austerity in mental activities. And I'm just going to read 17 because he sums up the previous three verses. Shraddhaya paraya taptam tapastat trivadhang nadahi apalakankshi yuktai satvikam parichakshate. This threefold austerity, performed with transcendental faith by men not expecting material benefits but engaged only for the sake of the Supreme, is called austerity in goodness. So these are important lessons that we can get from this chapter. And we just haven't just enough time for a little poem, which hopefully is in the mode of goodness. Hare Krishna. All right, I was just thinking of this one today. So you have to visualize, because it's based on a painting where Krishna's sitting out in the forest on a soft lotus seat there. And he's got a little dove on his hand. And there's a swan in front of him. And there's a deer and there's a little cow. And they're all nuzzling up, So that's the painting. The sweetness of Sri Krishna's form beguiles. Still sweeter is his face, like autumn moon. But sweeter than the sweetest is his smile, whose luscious beauty makes the gopis swoon. Govinda's beauty captivates the doves, the swans, the deer, the cows, and every tree. Indeed, in Braja, every creature loves Sri Krishna and is drowned in ecstasy. That all-enchanting land is paradise, our home where we may dwell eternally. Most welcome there are those who pay the price to learn to love Shri Krishna perfectly. Hare Krishna. Now let's see the Lord on the altar and chant his name. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.